Okay, it's Lindsay without the hat. Whew. When you walked in, I'm like, oh no, I remembered the hat. Okay, so psychology. Okay, so wait, back up one more thing. I had a couple people ask questions. What do I post on the little It's About Me? Okay, 19 people this morning posted. You haven't yet. You didn't post on the discussion yet. Yeah. So what I did is it didn't. What I did is when I first populated it, you have to set number of groups equal to the number of people in class. And when I first set it up, there was 3 people, Christina, and one of the persons who wasn't here, but people at the end of the vocabulary didn't have a group. So Christina posted, everybody. Hi, sorry about that. That's okay. So anyway, so what I did is I redid another one. So there's one that says, I can show it to you as opposed to motioning blindly with my hands, which doesn't make much sense. Okay, so this is It's All About Me. This one was the first one, and so it's only worth 5 points about. See, so this is what I see when I'm grading it. It's just a number, except yours at the bottom, which has your name on the top of it. Sorry about that. But so this is what I see when I'm going through these, and you can see that 14, 12, those folks haven't posted anything yet. Okay, you haven't posted yet. Okay, and so when I go through and grade them, I can go to the grade book and then I can see who did and who didn't. Okay, so then all I'm asking for you to do is try to relate the course content to your own personal experience. Yesterday, you really can't relate to your own personal experience very well at all. There's just not much that you can really draw in from everything, okay? However, the stuff we're going to talk about today, you can find relationship with yourself. And so that's what we're looking for. So I put a second discussion on here, which is the redo, and this one now has enough spaces. I put 50 different groups there. Each of you gets assigned a group, and so because I put 50 groups, there's less than 50 people in here. Each one of you gets put into one of these. That make sense? Yeah. And so it's anonymous. No one else will see it. If you do find something that does relate well, I always ask, please share it in class. If it's not too, don't overshare. I'm very good at oversharing, and I apologize in advance. Okay, but if you have something that's relevant and interesting for everybody, please share it. Because if the class is about you, you remember it better. And if you are concerned, if I'm talking too fast, which we talk about after class, I'm talking too fast for one person, I'm talking too fast for more than one person. So say something. Okay? Or speak. She lost her voice. I had a student, Summer, who sat right there all semester. She lost her voice in the second week of the semester. And her voice was raspy the whole semester. It's an excellent cold. I highly recommend it. Okay. You want to get a good cold. It's really going to sink in. Okay. So I'm working on I'm trying to figure out the SharePoint thing. If that doesn't work, I'll shift to a Google Classroom thing where you guys can see all the notes and everything else that I'm posting up. Just trying to think that through. That's what's fun. Okay. So zoom out a little bit here. What is psychology for? Okay, study the mind. Well, but before we can go to the next thing, our jobs are to explain, predict, and try to control behavior. That's the point of this whole business. Okay? But what is the mind? Perspective. And when we try to study perspective, can someone tell me what? I'm going to draw a circle. Ooh. Is it an oval or a circle? Depending on the perspective you're looking at. Oh, really? Is this the top of my lid of my coffee mug an oval or a circle? Well, as you're looking at a perspective there, it looks like it's an oval. In fact, I don't want to tip it over too much, but so I'll just make it really narrow, because that's pretty much what it looks like from your perspective right now. How come I don't want to tip it over too far? My glorious coffee will leave. I've got 3 or 4 cups of coffee left on my Starbucks gift cards. I'm going to use every single one of them before it runs away. My wife, as a principal, gets little Starbucks gift cards handed to her left and right at holiday season. So I was stealing them as fast as possible before she loaded them into her phone. Ooh, $20. Wow! Ouch. Wait. She goes, it comes out of our same account. Like, I don't care. It's free coffee if I have the gift cards. It's not crazy enough. It's all about perspective. Okay. So what color is the screen? I'm here trying to screen. Okay. White. Okay. What color is this? Right here. Black, right? Okay, so far so good. White, black, good. What color is this? What color is the background of my image? Light gray on me. Is it black or white?
White border.
That makes total sense. So whether you ask, if I ask what color is this right here, the answer depends on your perspective that you're looking at it from. Now, if you're a physics folk, what do you say? You guys are the physics. What is this? It's not the absence of light. That would be totally cool. Like you totally can melt into it like a vacuum. Okay. This is a white pigment with little light shining on it. So it's reflecting less energy. As soon as I reflect a white light onto a white surface, I see the difference between a light and a pigment. That's the answer. Okay? Good morning. Okay. Sorry for the hike up the hill. Because when you're late, you're like, okay, I'm like, oh! And it's like, okay. I expect that, sadly. We'll figure it out, though. So, but if you have enough understanding of how projectors work and how physics works, how come I use a black background? I can show you what happens if I put on a white background. You can see it on my face right now. What am I doing the entire time? Yeah, we're not casting a shadow. I'm getting blinded by the freaking projector. And if I stand in the right spot, I really want to get this right, like have the word dumbass just written there and just stand there with this dumbass.
Yes, please.
Yeah, but yeah. It's right now my time's on my gesture. Yeah, okay. So one of the reasons that I have a black background is because a black background reflects less light. And so there's better contrast with the letters that I have. What was wrong with the contrast in the last classroom? So when the sun shone on this background became lighter, therefore the relative contrast ratio of the light to dark is less. Even though it's exactly the same on my computer, the perspective changed based on the ambient light around it. Boring, sorry. Okay. But this color is actually one of the best colors. Why is that color one of the best colors to use on this presentation software? And the yellow, losing words, the yellow is brighter than the white because that door, for some reason, doesn't unlock. I can't unlock that one. Sorry. So, oh, is anybody in here red-green colorblind? What's going on? Okay, so red-green colorblind is really interesting. Is if I draw something that is, let me change this pretty cool rainbow one into green. If I draw this little box, it looks like this. And if I draw the little box in red, closest red I'm going to get, they're both the same color. If you're red-green colorblind, you can't tell the difference between these two things. My friend John Ross, who's a volleyball coach, and he's in Texas or somewhere now, he was completely red-green colorblind. Does he notice? No, he's never seen red or green. The world just doesn't exist in those colors. And so what's interesting about your perspective is that you are biased. You are biased in your perspective. How you see the world is how the world is. No, it's because it only exists to you. That makes sense? And so the problem is that we deal with these things called other minds. My wonderful bicycle Sketchy. Sketchy is on the short list of getting rid of again. I sold Sketchy a couple years ago to a kid at USD, and then the kid at USD was moving back to England, and he said, "Hey, you want the bike back?" I'm like, "Sure." I sold it for $150. He used it for 2 years. I got it back for $100. Oh yeah. Sketchy's home again. He left it outside. It's a little faded, but it's still the same crappy bike that it was before I sold it to him. And so when we ride that thing, it has a mind of its own. When you're going down a hill off-road, you just kind of hope that you're going to make it. It's terrible. Horrible bike. I love it dearly. Anyway, because why do I say it has a mind of its own? Hopefully none of you have a car that has a mind of its own, where you put the key in, you turn it, you go, boom, yeah, it's a good day. It's hard to predict. When something has a mind of its own, it is hard to predict. So this is what we do when we talk about psychology. We have this problem of other minds. And this problem of other minds is we want to be able to predict what the other person is going to think, say, or do. That gives us comfort in the world. That gives us safety. Okay? And so the problem is your perspective is biased. Our perspectives are all biased. Okay, so let me show you a really cool video clip. And someone please remind me to start the video after the start the recording again after the video clip. Here, for each color, I had to memorize the notes. I had to memorize the notes. And this is one of my wife years and years ago when she was a kindergarten teacher. She had a little boy that was adopted from Russia, and his name was Elijah. And I used to go play in the classroom with the kids all the time. My wife hated me saying that because I was like, I have to teach them. You just come and play with them. That's right. Okay. Anyway, totally weird. I saw Haley. You didn't go to Alpine Elementary, did you? Okay. I saw a Haley. We were cleaning out the garage, and there was a poster with all these little handprints on it from her kids. And there was one that said Haley on it. And I'm like, it's about the right age. Okay. So anyway, so Elijah grew up in a Soviet style orphanage. He had this, there was a book of rainbow colors where you'd turn the page and this ribbon would pull across with the different colors on it. He would sit and just stare at that every single day. And he would come into school wearing pinks and blues and bright greens, and Every time he'd pick out clothing, he'd pick out the brightest colors he could find because they were just so amazing to him to see these bright colors. Because growing up, when his parents went and got him, everything was gray. Everything was gray. Concrete, metal, plain metal beds, old faded sheets, gray blankets. The only color was the sky. And in Moscow, what color is the sky often? Gray. Or white. And even the snow, because of the soot, is gray. And he was blown away by looking at all these colors. Because your color comes from a part of your brain back here. Where do we, if you are not colorblind, activate this part of your brain from? Well, you're pointing to the correct area of the brain. That's so Monday. Yeah. From your eyeballs. Right. Okay, from your eyeballs. Eyeballs go back to your here and then go to here for color. But he doesn't have the pigments in his eyes to get the colors, to activate here, to activate here. So what does he do? Activates the sound behind his ear. I got to get a set of tuning forks. Anybody ever use a tuning fork? They're really neat. You bong them on something, bonk, and they go. They're made of metal at a very specific length, and so they vibrate at a very specific frequency, so you can get a perfect pitch. Okay, and then you can, if you put that pitch right behind, in the bone right behind your ear, it's really neat. Your whole head goes with sound, and it feels like your whole head is directly in sound. Okay? Kind of like earbuds. Anyway, moving on. But, so his brain is connecting sound waves to color area. He is perceiving color exactly the same way you are. Perceiving color. He's not sensing color the same way you are, but he's perceiving color the same way you are. That make sense? So this is kind of weird. When he listens to music, what does he see? Colors. So that if you watch the rest of this thing, which I don't want to spend time watching the rest of it, he actually paints pictures using computer graphics of what different artists' music sound like. Because he can see what these colors are. There's actually a disorder called synesthesia. Synesthesia is like when you, I had a student named V who had this. V. Whenever she saw numbers, they were in different colors. There's a guy, Daniel Tennant, if anybody's ever seen him, he's a human computer guy. He's been on Discovery Channel like every 6 months, usually around 2 in the morning. But he's a human supercomputer. He calculated 26,000 digits of pi in his head, just running the math. Not memorizing them like the morons do. He actually was just doing the math for 6 hours straight. Good idea. He goes, I quit. Why? I'm tired. Could he have kept going forever? Yeah, it's just a long division problem in his head. 22 divided by 7. Go. Okay. And Daniel sees numbers as shapes. When he wants to multiply two numbers together, they form a new shape in his head. He goes, oh, that's 6,507,002. Didn't say right. No. Okay. So, I don't think the recording thing is recording me. Oh, it is. Okay, good. So the next part of this is, how do we, wait a second, did he learn a new sensation? So he didn't learn a new sensation. He learned a new perception or perspective. He learned a new perspective. He generates the tones internally now when he's thinking about color. Okay, so there's a bunch of other researchers who've done this. There's a vest you can wear. I'm not going to play this video, but again, it's one of those things that if you Google it, most of these are all TED Talks. And again, I have glasses now. My student class must have called these my Santa Claus glasses. Okay, sometimes the keyboard on this, does your keyboard do this randomly? Where it just randomly starts doing other things? So my keyboard will randomly start losing keyboard control and start just doing function control for no reason whatsoever. It's an undocumented feature that's very exciting. Like that. You see what? So it's not actually working. And now I have to do this. Sorry. Can you Google how to turn off auto something something? What is that? No, it's like it won't. I can't type. I can do this though. Open TED.com New Census for Humans. Okay. New Census for Humans on TED. I'm not going to play this. It's copyrighted, but shut up. Oh, I can't skip the ad. Stupid ad. Okay, so this guy, blah, 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 blah. Here's a guy that's blind or deaf. There we go. He is wearing this vest. It's slightly pompous looking. Okay, sponsored by LG. It has a bunch of little vibra sensors from your phone all over the back. Okay? So what they do is they pump information to that. Some people have been wearing this vest with the stock market on it. They're just feeling the stock market. And then they watch the stock market in real life, and then they feel it, and they watch it and they feel it. Are they even conscious of what they're feeling, really? No, but their brains go, oh, when this feels like this, then the stock market's going to crash. When it feels like this, things are going up. When it feels like this, the stock market's going to take a dip. So if you're a smart trader, you want to trade right before things crash, and then you want to buy stuff right as things crash. And so people were wearing this vest, listening to the stock market, listening to the data. Deaf people can learn to hear by putting the vibrations of those sound waves on their back. They don't hear, they understand, they perceive. Okay, and so the reason why this is so cool, I think it's really cool, is because this is, bless you, this is the way that our brains work. Our brains work by changing perspective, perception. The biggest problem with trying to study psychology is our brains keep changing. I know there's a way to fix my computer so that it stops auto. It's a disability function with the computer. So it's someone who is disabled can't type, but they can hit a single key to open up different commands. It's an accessibility feature. And for me, I have no idea how to turn it off or why it turns on to begin with. I tried that, it didn't work. And then, but one of my students last semester, his name was Matt, goes, "I'll just hit control something, and it worked. So get Googling. Okay. Anyway, but so this is why. The main reason is why this is why we need science. That was terrible. Why does it say win there? I'm winning. I think my Dell's winning. Okay, I talked bad about you earlier, computer. I'm really sorry. Can you please be nice? I'll just try it one more time. Macs usually do much better if you apologize to them and tell them they're pretty, but PCs generally don't. Okay. Let's see that works. Okay, so why do we need science? Data. You need data. So how do you know that I remember your names? This one was bugging me this virus. I keep saying Alonzo. Good. It's like it's too perfect to be right. So, okay. So how do you know I remember names? Christopher. CJ, dang it, sorry. CJ. Okay. But how do you know that I remember names? Practicing is not how you know it, by being able to say, Tia, I know it, and forgetting it. Behavior. Behavior. The fact that I can know who you are, and as you're coming in, and if you throw me a loop by not wearing a hat, the ski hat is how I remember it, Lindsay, terrifying, and you sat over there before, now you're over here, I'm okay. But, so if I can count the number of names that I get correct, is that science? Well, it's data. So in order for us to have data, we need hold on, before we even get to a theory or hypothesis or any of that cool stuff, we have to use science. And people go, I don't believe in science. That's like, I don't believe in math. Science is a method, it's not a thing. And is there bad science? Yes. There's lots and lots of bad science, which I'll play you another video about bad science coming up in a few minutes here. But the idea of behavior is the only thing that we can science in psychology. This whole textbook in cognitive psychology, uses behavior as their measures. And some of the behavior that they use, especially when they talk about things later in the book, like language and problem solving, it's all theory. There's not really good science behind it. You can't measure the behavior of it. So how do I know if you can solve a problem? Have them solve the problem. Put the person in a situation and have them solve a problem. I'm really looking forward to putting my new bicycle together. It's not new, it's old and dusty, but I have a bicycle that needs to be put together, and I'm cleaning out the garage, and I cleaned out the shed, and I started cleaning out the shed. When I get home right after school today, I'm cleaning out the rest of the shed, and we're taking a trip to the dump, and then we're going fishing, and then we're going to see a movie. Being here is so much easier than being at home. But when I clean out my shed, I pull all my bicycle parts out, and I have almost everything I need to put that bike together. I can just look at it and know what parts that I need. I need a rear disc rotor, I need 12 bolts, and I need 2 disc mounts for the brakes. That's it. Everything else is ready to go, and a chain. Yeah, and so that's cake. I can easily get that. And so, but how do I know I can solve that problem? I've never built this bike before. This one's a little different than any bike that I've built before. I've built many similar bikes. By knowing how to build one bike, can I build another bike? Yeah. It's not memory because I've never done it before. I've never built that bike before. I don't remember how to build that bike. Okay, so this is the problem with most of our psychology. Most of us don't live in behavior. We live in our mental spaces, which we can't measure. So what we do is we try to come up with good experiments to measure these things. Like, for example, do we actually have a mind? Okay, so this is the experiment that we're going to first go through. And the name of the experiment is called the theory of mind. This is what we're going to talk about. We have to think about what the mind actually is and what behavior it is. If you went through the textbook, you know the answer, but I'm going to give you a slightly different version of the experiment that's in the textbook, because it's got my son in it, and he's cute as a bug. Okay, so in this experiment called theory of mind, we need to figure out what a behavior is first. This first thing, before you come up with a theory, before you come up with a hypothesis, before you come up with anything, you need to come up with a behavior. Why do I have a number sign there? Why is there a number sign? What does a number sign have to do with anything? Statistics. In order for us to do statistics, we need objective objective empirical data. I'm going to restart this thing when I'm We need objective and empirical data. So what does the word objective mean? Okay, so you trailed off there. I said So not influenced by opinion, non-biased. It has to be something that if one person sees it, the other person, the second observer sees it, sees the same thing. This is why we like to use math. So a good way to measure a behavior is time. So like in the workout this morning, we were doing basically dumbbell presses we always do a strength exercise, and then we do a series of conditioning stuff after the strength exercise. And so today it was just dumbbell presses, like bench pressing, but the dumbbells. And we did 10 reps every minute on the minute for 10 minutes. So how do you know that you've done it? You count. Is that something that's objective? Yes, especially if you have a trainer nearby, and your trainer nearby, that was 7, that was 10, or 10. My left arm doesn't work as well as my right arm. But it's objective, you can count. And I can know if I did it once every minute because, do we count a minute? Objective. Is it empirical? Could I put it into a spreadsheet? Actually, we did this not experiment. We did this thing which was actually pretty funny. I won't be able to get to it. Never mind. One of our trainers said, okay, for the month of June, we're going to do 10,000 kettlebell swings. Kettlebell swing is you take the kettlebell and you swing it back and bring it up here like that. Really simple movement. It's really good for you if you do it right. It's really bad for you if you do it wrong. So we have to do 10,000 swings. It comes out to 333 swings a day for the entire month. If you skip a day, what does that mean? Yeah, 666 the next day. Now, so we did it, so we took the weekends off. So we did 500 a day, took the weekends off, 500 a day, took the weekends off. My father-in-law's birthday, I did 720 because he was turning 72 with the 72-pound kettlebell. That was really stupid. Don't do that. But the idea is that it's one of those things, if you keep track, I kept a spreadsheet of the number of swings per day so I could keep the average going properly. And it's empirical because then can I average the number of reps or the number of swings that I do? Yeah, I can compare one person to another person if I am using objective empirical data. Should you really worry so much about keeping objective empirical data of your workouts? Why? So progress is knowing what you've been and where you are? Because if that, don't get old, kids. I remember I clean and jerked 300 pounds, 315 pounds when I was in college. I hurt my back deadlifting 315 pounds a couple months ago. I could put that over my head, no problem. One of my students did 3 reps at 285 clean and jerk. Like nothing. Shut up. Go. So you shouldn't try to measure everything. There's a sign at the end of Lake Murray that says if you don't touch the sign, it doesn't count. I really want to put a sign up there. If enjoying yourself requires keeping track, you're missing the point. Like people say, it doesn't count if you hike up cows and don't touch the sign. Like, great. I'll walk up and walk around the sign and go, woohoo, not touching it, doesn't count, and walk away. Because is getting there the goal, or is the journey the goal? Depending on your perspective, depending on your meaning, and why do stuff. But again, if your goal is to try to get better versus just to go for a hike and do the best you can. So there's different motivations, there's different reasons for lots of different things. But in order for us to do science, we need this objective empirical data. This is the hardest part in psychology. This is the hardest part of why some of the experiments that they talk about in this textbook are ridiculously complicated. Because in order to figure out what you're thinking, we have to be very creative in what we're measuring. So this is, well, okay, so what is the theory of, what is the idea of mind? How do we test if someone has a perspective or not? What's the data? You have to be more specific now. How do we know that other people have a mind? How do you know? This is really irritating, especially as a behaviorist, as someone who really embraces the study of behavior, is that verbal behavior. We ask people questions. That's it. Sorry. Well, no, but if we want to find out about things like the mind, we have to have the person talk or do things. Do things. Talking is a very good form of behavior because you can record it, 2 people can listen to it, 2 people can write it down, you can see what they say, you can count the number of times one person said one thing, one person said the other thing. It works. But, so we're going to test little babies. Now, little babies don't necessarily have verbal behavior. Okay? Little babies don't necessarily have verbal behavior. So, this is going to bite me, but let's see. Steve Weinert, MA, YouTube channel. All right. And then this one. Aww. Look how cute they were. Okay, sorry. That was my old daughter. Look how cute. Okay. Stop it. I don't want that one. I want to go to... Look at massive views on those. 19 on that one. Woohoo! Let's see. It's in here somewhere. Oh, let's see. There it is. There's one more in here that I want. Oh, let's see if I can do that. I don't want that YouTube channel. Forget the keyboard. Give me something to type with, possibly. Do you see an on-screen keyboard? Do you see it on the right side? Hey, whoopah! And it's still doing it. Okay. I don't have Edge. No, it doesn't. It's just stupid and dumb. And pause. Go 86. Went to a mountain bike festival, and I saw guys riding trial stuff. And I said, wow, I really want to do that, 1985. And when I turned 45, I always troll Craigslist for bicycles. I found a trials bike, and for $300, and I'm like, hey. So my father-in-law needed to get me something for Christmas, and I'm like, hey, you want to get me something for Christmas? Come in with me on this trials bike. You go, whatever. So I got it, and I rode it for about 2 years and sucked. And then one of my good friends, named Brian, he rides trials motorcycles. So they do this on motorcycles too. It's insane. Anyway, and then Brian gave me a video and was giving me pointers on how to do it. And then he got actually killed in a car accident. He was ran over riding his bike home from school. Brian Jennings from Grossmont. I don't know. Kind of sad. Nancy, his wife, worked there. So when he died, his wife said, hey, I want you to have his trials bike. And so that's the bike that was on the roof of my car in the moonlight. But that's, to me, it's like, so I've really stepped up my learning on how to do this. Why is it so hard to freaking learn when you're 50? Not yet, almost. I'm not bouncy like I used to be. Most of these guys are in their 20s and early 30s, and they can jump really high. I don't know if you noticed, but that rock the guy just jumped on top of was this high. And he just went, bruh, and jumped up on top of the rock with a bicycle. Anyway, so this little guy is going to, so basically the moral of the story is, should you ever leave anything on your bucket list? No. Why is it called a bucket list? Things you do before you kick the bucket, before you die. And so Brian last year wanted to learn to whitewater raft. You know, the kind the guy with their strapped in and flip over and go down the giant rapids and that. So he went out and he decided he wanted to do it. So the next day he's on Craigslist and he went out and bought a whitewater raft set up and went into the ocean. We don't have too many rivers in San Diego, but we do have these lots of waves that are very much like, and he learned how to whitewater raft while playing at Mission Beach. And then went up to the Kern River and came down the Kern River on his whitewater raft. Check. He climbed every mountain in California on his bicycle that he could possibly ride up. There's like X number of 14,000 plus peaks in the United States, and he rode up every single one of them. Well, yeah, exactly. Why? To do it. Just go for it. So that's one of the things. And again, IV drugs, probably want to skip that one off your bucket list. Just till right before you die. Just right before. Anyway. I'm a big fan of euthanasia things, especially when I'm old and peeing on myself. I'm just, give me some headphones. Okay, now. So this little guy has got some different learning to go. Okay, this little guy is Caleb. He is my son. He is 8 months old. I want to know, does he have a mind at 8 months? So what we're going to do is we're going to do a test called the object permanence test. What we're going to do is we're going to test his theory of mind. This little tiny baby. So we're going to measure behavior. We're going to measure what he knows now, what he knew, and what he will know. Make sure you keep up. So, what's the difference between what you know now, what you knew, and what you will know? What's the difference? Well, it's perspective, not time. So what you knew, this is your memory. What does your will know? What you will know is not experience. It's the future. Prediction. What you know now is your perception. Okay, so this experiment, back when it was first introduced, it was actually introduced to see if babies could remember things. That's why it was eventually, things outside of the kids' experience, kids don't remember them. Kids don't remember anything until they're 2. It's what they used to say back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. Something happened in the 1990s, though. They started discovering that early childhood experiences imprint on the child's behavior. This is one of my favorite early experiments. So, is anybody here who hates going to the doctor? Okay, a few of you. That's it? Go to the doctor. They're not bad people. Anyway, but kids. Okay, brace. This is really cool. Kids. Out of the 40 people in here, or 30-something people in here, there's 3 people that don't like to go to the doctor. Okay? I mean, I don't really enjoy it, but it's not horrible for me. Okay? So, if you have a parent with gestational diabetes for some women, when they when they start growing a baby, their pancreas gets all weirded out and they produce too much insulin, or not enough insulin, or whatever. The blood sugars go out. Cattywampus. Science, sorry. So usually women will take a glucose tolerance test to find out if they're gestational diabetic, and if they do, they'd have to watch their diet when they're pregnant. Otherwise, the baby gets massive. You can have a 10, 12-pound baby coming out if you don't pay attention to gestational diabetes, and it increases the risk of obese baby, and baby increased risk of diabetes as the baby gets older. Yeah. Brain damage is relative. You have to really spike it to get, yeah, okay. Babies are pretty good at regulating themselves. Well, anyway, so when the baby is born with a mom with gestational diabetes, they test the baby for blood sugar. Where do you stab the baby to get the blood sugar? Feet, your heels of their feet. They don't have summer feet, is what we call them in our house. Where you walk across a parking lot and go, okay. So they have little soft baby feet, and you stab their baby feet, and the baby goes, ow! Babies that have been tested for gestational diabetes, stabbed in the doctor's office, are less likely to go to the doctor when they're older. Day one, what do they associate? Being very uncomfortable, and what do they associate being uncomfortable with? The doctor's offices. That's why the doctors don't give shots. Who gives shots? The nurses. The physician's assistants give the shots. The doctors don't do it because the doctors, they want the kid to feel comfortable with the doctor, and the doctor leaves the room, the nurse comes in with a row of shots. Kids hate the nurses, they still like the doctors. The doctors generally, pediatricians, don't wear scrubs. What do they wear? Most pediatricians do not wear white coats. They wear Hawaiian shirts, they have animals on their things, they're not, quote, doctors, they're some guy dressed like a slight clown. Because of that negative association. It's really crazy. Day one, this happened. Okay, so now, we're going to test, so how do I know, what am I going to manipulate in order to measure this? Because here's our measurement. Kids don't have verbal behaviors, but we're going to hear some verbal behavior from my son. Ah! Pretty much. Okay? What are we going to manipulate? How do I know if he knows something now? You can't really ask an 8-month-old, what do you know? So, what do you know? What's the square root of 10? Okay, so let me show you what we're going to manipulate. Watch carefully. Now, what you can't see, because I'm a bad photographer, is he has this little blanket, okay? And when it's this little blanket, I put the keys under his blanket. Does he like the keys? How do I know? Yeah, he's upset, and also, when I give them back, so when he has the keys, he sets off the car alarm in my new picture. Anyway, he plays with the keys, he shakes them, he makes noise, and he makes happy baby sounds. So I love my mini picture. It was so cute. It was white, and everybody told me, that's a gay guy car. I'm like, it is not, and then my gay neighbor bought one that was white. Dude, you're not helping me at all here. Because here's this roof, Rex. Okay. I still love the car. Does he understand the present? How do you know? When the keys are present, he reaches out, picks them up, and shakes them. He is aware of the present. A little baby like 3 months old, you put something in its hand, it just goes. Is it really aware of what's going on? No. The only thing it really notices is mom or whoever cares most for the baby's face. And because you can tell, because if you put the little baby in front of a screen and project pictures, what does it do when a picture of mom shows up, or primary caregiver? They don't smile too much. They just stare. When a baby stares, it's into it. That's it. But that's why do babies stare into their mother's eyes? Yeah, and a stranger looks at them, they just kind of look away. Until they're about 8 months old, then they will actually look into other people's eyes and try to make eye contact with everybody. But when they're little, they just do it with mom. Not dad so much, more mom. Okay. Moms are important. Does he have a past? We have lots of answers. So what do you think? Does he have a past? He is perfectly physically capable of moving the blanket to get the keys. He's able to grasp, he's able to pull, he's able to hold. However, he doesn't have a future. But does he have a past? How do you know he has a past? Yeah, he was happy. I take the keys, he's pissed off. He wants the keys. So he knows the keys exist in the world. He remembers there's keys. He remembers that there is a past. But he doesn't have a future yet. He can't think perspective himself into the future. A lot of 14-year-olds can't think perspective into the future. Yeah. We were, Memorial Day weekend, my buddy was selling his boat, and he wanted to take it out for one last trip, so we went out Mission Bay Memorial Day weekend. Psychotic, insane. We're zooming across the channel by Ski Beach to Fiesta Island. 2 kids were trying to swim across that channel in the middle of the day, Memorial Day weekend. Can you imagine all the boats zooming around and these 2 kids trying to swim? We pulled them out of the water, yelled at them, and then threw them back on the beach at Fiesta Island where their parents were. And we said, hey, you guys, it's really a bad idea. And they said, we'll do it when it gets dark. It's just, but because when you're 14, you go, well, that sounds like a fun idea, but you can't do it, but you can't do it. I'm going to do it, you do it, I'm going to do it. And do they think about the consequences? It's just the fun of trying it. Yeah. They shouldn't. I'm serious. A lot of 16-year-olds, I mean, some of the panics that I've had teaching my daughter to drive, it's like we have a lot of homeless people in my neighborhood, and there's a homeless gentleman walking across the street. My daughter's not slowing down. I'm like, stop. Stop. And I'm like, I screamed at her, stop. She goes, well, he shouldn't be there. Your fault. We missed him by about 2 feet. And I mean, she ended up jamming on the brakes, which was good because he was meandering across the street and he kind of staggered into in front of her, which anybody who has any ability to predict the future knows a staggering person who's walking across the street not looking, do they even recognize the car is there at all? Probably not. And I felt bad. I screamed at her and she goes, don't yell at me. You would have killed the man. We shouldn't have been there. But the object is that this is my son at 8 months and he can't do it either. I moved the blanket. I got it, Dad. I got it. Okay. Poor sad baby. But all I did was put the blanket on top of them. He knows that they're there, but what can't he do? He can't think into the future. Thinking in the future means, move blanket, get keys. Because move blanket is something he can do. But to move the blanket to do something else, he cannot do yet. Until they turn 9 months of age. Then a lot of dads say, where's the baby? So where's the baby is where you put the kid at 8 months on the rug in their living room and you sit him there and you walk away. You come back a few minutes later after making a quesadilla for yourself and you look down and the kid's still playing on the rug. 9 months of age. The future exists. Where's the baby? What do? They're exploring. Because they don't explore at 8 months. No. Kids that are a younger sibling start exploring at 7 months. As soon as they're able to crawl, kids that are younger siblings grow mind faster. So we're talking about after class. They grow mind faster. Because what do they have? They have older siblings as a model. Single children, if you're a child-only child, you develop mind the slowest. All right. It doesn't mean that you're any less intelligent. It just means that you don't understand other people's perspectives until much later. So now, we're going to test him, because he's awesome. We're going to test him at, there's my neighbor snoring. You don't videotape your neighbor? Okay, so, I was in Joshua Tree. You ready for this? Okay, this is what we call the false belief test. Okay, so back then, this, in what year was this? 2010. I was teaching developmental psych. This experiment was in the developmental psych book, and I said, this is cool, I'm going to test it with my kids. Because that's what you do when you're a psychology professor. So, here's what we're going to manipulate. We're going to manipulate what we know, what he knew, and what he will know. And then we're going to add secret option number 3. This is really tricky. That's really lame as far as the color goes. Sorry. I'm having computer issues today. So, we're going to test this part of his mind. The ability to see other minds. So what we're going to manipulate is we're going to ask him 3 questions. What's in the box? It's a box of Crayola crayons. So what did he say? Crayons. Okay, then I'm going to show him that there are not crayons in the box. Following this so far? If you speak 3-year-old, they sometimes speak while inhaling as well as exhaling. They don't quite figure that out. So he goes popsicle sticks. He loves popsicles. That's like his thing. So anytime there's a popsicle involved, he's extremely excited. So it's hilarious to him that there's popsicle sticks in these boxes. Okay, so now he has a belief. Now he knows. Now his perception is popsicle sticks. Try so good? Here's the first step of questioning his mind. What did you think? If he has a mind, he will say, I thought there were popsicle sticks. If he doesn't have a mind, what will he say? months, no memory whatsoever. Remember, memory is already established at 8 months. He's already got memory.
Yeah.
There we go. So, I'll say this again because it's right on. So, if he has a perspective of his own self, he says, I thought there were crayons, thought, past tense. I know there's popsicles. If he doesn't have a mind, he goes, I've always thought there were popsicles in there. So a 2-year-old got an untied shoe. You look down. You brace. Let me tie your shoe for you. No, I can do it, says the 2-year-old. They don't know that they don't know how to tie their shoe. As soon as they say, no, I can tie my shoe, they've always been able to tie their shoe. Crocs. Always. And they're good birth control once you get to high school, so they'll really just keep them on it. Okay. He's wearing Crocs. And I said that once, and the guys in front wearing Crocs. Sorry, dude. Okay, now. They're quite comfy, but ridiculous. Some YouTuber was wearing them last year, and like all the kids at Patrick Henry started wearing Crocs again. Anyway, so a 2-year-old doesn't understand what they know now is different than what they knew a minute ago. What they know now is what they've always known. A 3-year-old, 50-50, know now what they've always known. My son is 3 in this. A 4-year-old, I know now, I knew then. No problem. I know now, I knew then. Different. Series, mind. So watch my brilliant son. Watch his mouth. See the smugness? Popsicle? Wait a minute. How does mom think there's popsicle in there? Because what he knows, everybody else obviously knows. He's going to assume that because he knows what's really in there, everybody knows what's really in there. This is why I think 3 and 4-year-olds are more difficult than 2-year-olds. 2-year-olds, all it requires is a shiny object, and you're distracting them very quickly. Look at my elbow. Look out. Whatever battle's on, it's over. They want something at the grocery store, and they're throwing a fit, leave the store. Don't beat them in the car. You'll get caught in a security fence. Just leave the store. What happens as soon as you get out in the parking lot and you look at some other shiny object? Gone. Because what they know now is what they've always known. Okay, and so some kids are much more smart than other kids, but still. So my son says, I know, I thought there were crayons, I know there are popsicle sticks. If someone who's not here sees the box, what will they know? Popsicle sticks. It's really hard to argue with this thing. I don't want to go to bed. It's time for bed. But they say, but I don't want to, therefore you don't want me to go to bed. Why are you telling me to go to bed? You're a Simpsons fan now. It's really frustrating. Watch his mind get blown when he talks to my wife. Dinosaurs. Welcome to the mind of a 3-year-old. Doing science with these little beasties, this is really challenging. Because Well, their stream of consciousness is very shallow. And so they get their minds are flowing constantly all over the place. That's actually how they learn, by flowing their mind all over the place. And if an adult had said that, you're like, ooh, testing them for symptoms of schizophrenia. But a 3-year-old, right on point. That's why I love going to my wife's kindergarten class, because my wife would ask a question, okay, how many people know what this number is? And all the kids raise their hand, she calls them someone, my sister has a cat. All the kids go, ooh. I saw an iguana once. And then my dad slept on the couch last night. Oh, okay. Just like randomness is just awesome. Okay, so this is the key. In order to do this experiment, do you just test one kid? No, why not? Every kid is different. Every single kid that you test doing this, I tested every single one of the neighborhood kids, and at the same age. And every single kid was different in their answers. Lucas, who's exactly the same age as my son, but does not have an older sibling, he didn't get this until he was 4.5. My son got it at 3. Lucas's sister, Claire, who we went skiing with, she got it, I think she was like almost 2.5 when she got it. And it's crazy how some kids get it and some don't. And so we talk about this shape, and the shape is going to become really irritating for you for the next couple weeks. What is this shape? We don't use it. I don't like the word bell curve. It's called a normal distribution. The bells look like this to me. Ding, 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 ding. Ever since that stupid video of the cats playing the bells to get snacks? You seen it? Thanks, so. Okay. Validating my incompetence. Okay. So this is what we call a normal distribution. If I take your average 3-year-old, it should be able to get this theory of mind test right about 50% of the time. Right? As the kid gets older, what happens to the number of errors they make? It decreases. As the kid is younger, well, that doesn't increase, but the probability falls off of them being able to get it as well. And so, that's a bad example. It shouldn't work that, doesn't work quite that way. But, so we can say that if I have this is where we get the word average. Which means that it represents the bulk of people. So, if I look at an average 3-year-old, I can make a prediction based on this normal distribution of how well they're likely to do. Why on earth does Dora talk so slowly? So a child's mental processes are a lot slower than an adult. And so as a result, Dora pauses a lot when talking. Right, Boots? Right, Dora. And as an adult, you're like pulling your eyebrows out, trying to watch this. But the kids are like, yeah. Remember Blue's Clues? Yeah. That was my, I had my notification tone on my phone forever. And everybody would hear that and just go, half the class would go, because a lot of people watch that. And it was that same little sound. And my son really loved Blue's Clues. And he was really upset when Steve left and the new guy came. Yeah. Yeah. He didn't act well. Okay, anyway. But when you talk about this normal distribution, when you talk about this averages set what we call parameters. Now we're going to get to designing your own experiments here in a minute. What a parameter is a boundary. And I draw this shape all the time. This parameter, this boundary, sets a range of values, a range of scores, a range of behaviors around this, whatever center average you have. And what determines the shape of this distribution, again, if you take statistics, we spend all semester talking about this stupid thing. But what sets the shape of this, really simply, is number of data points. What changes the shape of this is the number of data points. So this experiment, for example, with the object permanence test, with moving the blanket and the kid getting it right or not, that experiment has been done, I think, since 1960-something, 1950-something. Have we figured out what the parameters are for that experiment? Right around 8 months of age, most kids around 8 months of age figure that out. 9 months technically is the trigger for figuring out the object permanence. But if I put in another variable, older sibling, what happens to my age? It decreases. And it's very predictable. I can ask the parents about their siblings and the relatives, and I can make a prediction about what's likely to happen. Then I can test the kid and see if it fits my prediction. Now the problem is that a lot of us collect data with very few observations. If you make very few amounts of observations, I'm going to kind of scroll this over. I keep trying to move down because I used to like going sideways, and I've had students complain that they're trying to take notes and they can't take notes sideways. Let's take a break. Take a break for about 5 or 6 minutes so you can use the restroom and stuff. So I'll stop this or pause it. Resume here. All good experiments start with a story. Why do they start with a story? Yeah, but think about, so why, you said yes right away. Do you have little people in your space? Okay, so you have one observation. I'm not meaning that in a condescending way, but that's actually the right way to start an experiment. You have one observation. Oh, that sounded in my head when I said it. You're like, so you make an observation. I've had the same observation. My son gets extremely aggro sometimes when he is playing. They do these little battles. They used to do these battles on Fortnite where they just play arena, and they'd go to the play arena and they would have rules and they'd try to kill each other following the rules, and Brady wouldn't follow the rules. Yeah, they're groups. So there's not just 1v1, it was like their whole, yeah. So they get really upset because as soon as they materialize, the other kid's sitting with the sniper rifle and just pops him as soon as he lands and so every time he materializes again, and they throw the remotes and they get really upset. And so this observation, we've seen this observation in multiple people. And neighbors actually had this is so cool, back when I was in college, we had things called LAN parties, where you would come in and plug everybody into the same switch and you could play online games when the internet wasn't fast enough to play online games. You'd literally come to each other's house and carry your PC, and usually if the cool host would have enough monitors, you would have to bring a monitor as well, but whatever. But back when we used to play Doom and Quake, and I forget some of the other games that we used to play against each other. Good stuff. Okay, but anyway, so lots of people have this observation that when you're playing these 1v1 battles, the kids get upset. So our neighbors, where I was going, our neighbors had a party where all the kids brought over their PS2s, they all set up computer with each other. Good hustle. Okay, and they all set the computers up so that they could battle each other right there. 2 kids got up and started punching each other because one kept sniping the other person before they could do anything. Literally got up and got in a physical fight. And so that ended the party very quickly, and those 2 kids still don't talk to each other. It caused a lot of angst and animosity. So the question is it the video game causing this? So, well, that's your observation. So what we have to do is we have to design an experiment to test it. So if you can you could say, oh, I know it's caused by inner anxiety against her dad for leaving them when he was 2. Right. Is it right? Maybe. But remember, we need to collect data. Okay, we need to collect data. Now, I'm purposely not telling you the right way to do this so that you crash and burn a little bit trying to learn about how to do it properly. Then I'll show you how to do it properly. So I want you to try first and suffer a little bit. Okay, so what's the first step in developing a good experiment? Before you have a group of people, before you even have a question, before you have a hypothesis, which is a finding, we got the observation. The first thing is a behavioral measure. Before you can write a hypothesis, before you can ask a question, you have to come up with a behavioral measure. You have to. Because you can say, oh, it causes aggression. Great. How are you going to measure aggression? I don't know. Well, that's what we have to do first, because science is very specific. We answer very, very specific questions. So, do I know that my son understands the future at 8 months old? Not really, but we know he doesn't move the blanket when I put the keys under it. So the literal result of that experiment is children they don't solve two-step problems. Two-step problems. Move one thing, get something else. Two-step problems. Anybody know how many steps pros can solve? Eight-step problem. Do this to get this, to get this, to get this 8 times. Your average 5-year-old can do 4 or 5-step problems. Very smart. Well, we keep killing them. And they look at us and go, oh, I got it. You're trying to kill us that way? Cool. And they avoid us. Rats do it just by making more rats. Wow, you keep killing us? Our next litter is going to have 20. Yeah. Okay. Anybody have rats problems this fall? We've had tons of rats this fall, just everywhere. Over in the bathroom, in the garage, and it sounded like, ever see the old movie where they open the hatch in the ship and all the rats run out? That's what it sounded like over the roof of our garage. I look out and you see a rat. Our neighbors cleaned out a wood pile for all the rats were living. Where'd the rats go? Everywhere. They're big brown ones, really pretty. Well, every time we've killed 12, and every time we kill one, the possum comes by and eats it. Crunch, 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 and look out. Oh, it's cleaning a trap for me, at least. Crunch, crunch. Yeah. Okay, so now, you need to come up with a behavioral measure for your observation. Kids get really upset. Kids get angry, aggro. Some word in there somewhere. Okay, that's easy. Well, it's actually the hardest part in psychology. Then what do you have to come up with? You have to come up with a hypothesis. Your hypothesis is an if-then statement. If blank, then, right triangle, that's not what I want. So what does a triangle represent? The Illuminati. No. Change. So if something is present, then we get a change in our behavioral measure. So now that you have a behavioral measure, which you have to do first, then you have to come up with something that you think is going to change our behavior. Okay, so I'm going to let you come up with what you fill in the blank here. We're going to work together in little groups. We're going to figure this out in a few minutes here. Okay? When you come up with a hypothesis, it's an if-then statement. All good hypotheses are if-then statements. A lot of science doesn't use good if-then statements, and as a result have wishy-washy conclusions, and it's hard to understand what they're talking about. Okay. The more boring and the more simple it is, it's better for science. Okay, so then we have our groups. Our manipulation. All experiments need what's called a control group. I think it actually looks better full screen. All experiments need a control group. What does a control group represent? Well, we don't know it's going to be no change until you run the experiment. A control group is where you have control over the whole experiment. You don't just let experiments go willy-nilly. That causes problems. Yeah. As normal as you can get them. The easiest form of a control group is called a baseline. So, if I want to measure aggression, what should I measure before we start playing the video game? Yeah, their aggression levels prior to playing video games. Because if I want to know if the video games change aggression, I kind of need to know where they start. Like whenever like my wife and I are doing this I did this a couple summers ago, but we're tracking everything that we're eating. I have an app on my phone, and it tracks all my food. I did this a couple summers ago just to see if what it makes a difference for a health psychology project that we're working on. And does it make a difference when you log all your food? Yeah, because what do you become conscious of? Everything you're eating. And when you're like finishing those leftover chicken nuggets that your kid didn't eat, and you have to add them into your phone, you realize that was 400 extra calories in your day that you didn't anticipate? There's only 4 chicken nuggets. Holy crap! I'm putting those down. I miss dino chicken nuggets. I wish my kids would eat those still. Leftover dino chicken nuggets on the plate. Okay. But you have to measure a baseline. You have to get a normal. Before you do any sort of diet or any sort of change, what do you have to pay attention to? What is a baseline? Before you can change anything, you have to know where it started from to know what's the difference. How many things should you change at once? 1. If you have a car that's having a hard time working and then you fix 7 things on it, which one fixed it? You never know. 1 thing at a time. Systematic, scientific, boring. Fixing the computer. If you do like 7 things to the computer, you don't know what fixed it. That's why for Windows, is it turned on? Is it plugged in? Restart Windows. You're good to go. Because most of the time when this computer does weird things, it's because it wants to update and it's passively aggressively slowing down the machine to make me update it. Google does the same damn thing with my phone. Stops responding, doesn't listen to me when I talk to it. Hey Google, are you listening right now? Oh, there you go. Hey Google, are you listening right now?
I'm trying.
says something different all the time. We had a big discussion about Google listening to you all the time and using your information against you. And so after I say that 2 or 3 times, hey Google, are you listening to me now?
I send audio to Google after you say, hey Google, or when you physically trigger me. You can control what audio data is stored and retained in voice and audio activity. To view your audio.
No, it's always listening, because why did it give me that answer then I'm trying? Because we're talking about it listening to... Sorry. So we could set up a series of experiments to test that if we wanted to. But the idea is we have to get a normal. We have to get some sort of base normal. One way to do it is have 2 groups. We have 2 groups of kids. Randomly selected 2 groups of kids. You do one thing, you do something else. You guys are playing video games, you guys aren't. We compare your aggression to your aggression. Versus testing the kid's aggression, having them play, testing it again. Lots of different ways to do that, but why do you have to have a control group? You have to have something to compare it to. Reference, point of reference. You have no idea what you're doing until you have that point of reference. Okay, that's really important. Okay, so then the experimental group. This is your manipulation. The experimental group is your manipulation. So this is where, if we're saying video games causes aggression, what does the experimental group do? Plays video games. Okay? And so you try to always compare the control group to the experimental group. You can have lots of experimental groups. In our experiment that we did, this experiment we did last semester, we had 4 different experimental groups. We did 4 different manipulations, comparing them all back to baseline. Every time we added a new group, we came up with a new measurement or a new group, and then we compared it with the same measurement back to our baseline group. Okay, so it's good to keep trying and trying and trying again. Is science ever done? No. Science doesn't come up with answers. It's a way of answering questions. Very few things have actually been figured out. Gravity, we don't know how it works. We can predict it. We can very accurately use it. We don't know what causes it. The strings vibrating. No, it isn't. That's a bunch of constants you made up. It doesn't exist. The universe is shaped like a giant saddle. Who's writing it? Okay, now, physics humor? Yeah. My dad was a physicist, so that's funny to me. Okay, so he designed computers. So the idea of what we come up with an experimental group, we're going to start manipulating things. When you manipulate things, you're comparing them to your normal. And now here's the hardest part. Confounds. Confounds are things that could change your dependent variable, or your measurement, I haven't used those words yet. Things that can change your measurement that you didn't think of. If we're measuring aggression, what could change aggression that we didn't think of? What are some things that are confounds in this experiment? Environmental pressure before a day. That's where baseline comes in. Baselines are good for controlling for bad days. But that's good. Bad day. What else? Past experience with video games. Conditioning, learning. So maybe asking a question, how often do you play video games? Would be good before they do this experiment. What else? Yeah, that's bad days. Or good days, depending on what kind of days. Yeah, but that would be the same. Yeah, so yeah, we could look at trauma. A lot of my third ex-brother-in-law, no, my sister's third husband, he was a military pilot, and a bunch of his military buddies always played the Black Ops something something video game. And they'd all get together and play it because it was actually a way that they could bond and relate to each other, because a couple of them had post-traumatic stress disorder, and playing the video game was a way of outletting their PTSD. And there's like a lot of crazy stuff in there. Like there's a light blinking in one of the rooms, and if you follow them with it's Morse code, and if you follow what it tells you, you get a fancy gun or something. There's all these like little hidden crap everywhere in the game. They're trying to explain it to you, and like, so I hate those. I don't like those things at all. So, what else could go wrong? What causes people to be aggressive? Causes. Hormones, testosterone. My poor little son is going through the great changes of puberty. Over the summer, he went from, he was 5'4" at the beginning of summer, he is 5'7" now. Weighs the same. He's getting he can ride my bicycles now. His legs are actually longer than my legs. He's a very creepy looking little creature. So why is he getting really angry and awful half the time and then fine other times? Testosterone surges. Young men don't really remember them because your brain shuts off during those periods. You just lumber through the world and get distracted in math class and have to walk out awkwardly. Good times. Good times. Okay, good. So how many possible compounds can you control for? Anything that, well, you can control some using baselines, you can control some by adding experimental groups. Well, that's why you have to think about them before you set the experiment up. It really sucks to spend all semester working on an experiment to realize that you forgot about something really simple. One of my students last year in my research methods class was looking at do pictures of hamburgers influence the choice of eating said hamburger. So they took, there's a website, I don't know if it's an Instagram page or something, where they show pictures of what the advertised burger looks like versus what the person took out of the box that they bought at said burger restaurant. They did Jack in the Box. In-N-Out looks actually pretty damn close to what it's supposed to look like, but like some of the McDonald's and Burger King ones are just awful that they get out. Anyway, so they took a picture of the advertised and then asked, would you eat this burger? And then they put a picture of the real thing and would you eat this burger? And did a series of tests to see if the advertised changed. They forgot to ask one really important question at the beginning of the survey. Do you eat meat? As a lot of people didn't eat those hamburgers. Oh, I'm not going to eat that, I'm not going to eat that. And they're like, wow, they didn't eat the fancy looking one or the other one. Well, do they eat meat? I don't know. Yeah, I don't eat fast food, so unless it's I'm going to get a Diablo burrito from Chuy's tonight. Anybody like spicy food? Diablo burrito from Chuy's. I was sitting on the couch crying. It was so spicy. It was so good. I've like been dreaming about it ever since then. My son's like, why are you going to do that to yourself? So I need another one. Gloriousness. Okay, sorry. I don't work for sponsored by Chewy, but their burritos are. Okay. California burrito causes obesity just by looking at it. Okay, so now, try to think about as many compounds as you can. All right. So, how many different experiments could we possibly come up with? Well, you have approximately 22 minutes. Okay, and what you're going to do is get together with 3 or 4 people, or 5 people if you want, and try to come up with an experiment. Try to come up with an experiment where we're going to see if we could possibly test this experiment. What are you trying to look for? What's the observation? No, the observation is video games used to use the word aggro. Person's getting all aggressive and playing video games. Usually you refer to it someone doing a sporting event where someone's becoming all quote sweaty, unquote, according to my son. Anybody know what sweaty means? What do you mean? They're trying really hard. And to the point where they're like sweating. So in vernacular, you're supposed to, the person's all sweaty now. What's a sweaty mean? I'm trying to learn kids speak. So I can use it. Like shredding the gnar. Okay.